All right, the Giant Ken Show. John Cobelt and Ken Champeau, KFI, AM 640, more stimulating talk radio. We're at the Ayers Hotel, Costa Mesa, Newport Beach. And again, we want to thank the Ayers family for hosting the show today, where it's a standing room only crowd right now.
And down the block, too, around the corner.
Yeah,
we got a lot of people who want to be in here.
They have specials. You can call their toll-free number, 800-838-AYERS. That's 800-838-AYRES.
Yeah, you can see the set we have. It's a courthouse setting. Trial of the tax traders coming up after 5 o'clock. That's where we will try, judge, sentence, and perhaps execute 4 members of the California legislature
who got their Profiles in Courage Awards yesterday in Boston, Massachusetts. This hour, though, it is a Republican senatorial debate between Chuck DeVore, Tom Campbell, and Carly Fiorina. And you know what? Unlike those running for governor, Steve Poizner and Meg Whitman, boy, are they slinging the mud. Those commercials are great, huh? Anybody got a vulture?
Yeah, full of lies on both sides, too.
It's getting really comical. These three, maybe because they're not spending as much money, haven't engaged in as much mudslinging, but we thought we'd provide an opportunity for that. We're just calling it that, but this will be a chance for each of the candidates to ask one of the other candidates a question or an issue of their choosing.
Now, that's why I've come down here, to help moderate here, to help sling the mud. Chuck, it's your turn. You get to pick Tom or Carly, and you can all mix it up here in this segment, and I'll try to referee this best I can.
All right. Well, we'll make a question about taxation. Of course, both Carly Fiorina and I have been critical of Tom Campbell for supporting carbon tax increases and gas tax increases. And what I wanted to do is ask Carly Fiorina, what is her tax record? In other words, we both have had public service. We both cast a lot of votes. Does she want to talk about how she stood in opposition, or has she supported any taxes in the past?
Well, you know, one of the realities about me is that I'm not a career politician. I come from the real world. And so I don't have a long track record of votes. Of course, one of the votes that Chuck DeVore made was he voted for the 2005 budget. He voted for the 2008 budget. Tom Campbell created the 2005 budget. Both of those budgets, as we know, committed this state to spending we can't afford. It created a situation where we now have structural deficits. I guess that's why Tom Campbell supports a 32-cent gas tax increase and a big proponent of Prop 1A. But you know what? What I really want to ask is, why is Barbara Boxer and President Obama in San Francisco raising money when President Obama ought to be down in Louisiana looking over and trying to help the poor people of the Gulf state?
I asked about taxes. The reason why I asked about taxes is that in the very first year that you voted for the first time in your life, according to media reports in 2000, you wrote an op-ed piece with John Doerr advocating for Proposition 26. Proposition 26 was a proposition that gutted Prop 13. Now, what I find is amazing is that you wrote in favor of Prop 26, and you didn't even bother voting in the election in which it was defeated narrowly. So the reason why I asked the question, we know that you've advocated for internet taxes, and someone called you on it, and there was kind of a very interesting confrontation with the press where they confronted you with your own evidence of support for internet taxes when you testified before Congress. But we just found this op-ed piece where you're advocating to make it easier for the teachers' unions to raise taxes on hardworking Californians. And this is the first policy statement that we found from you after you moved to California in 1999.
Well, maybe it would be important to correct Chuck's misrepresentations once again. Voters may remember that Prop 26, which had broad support, including former Governor Pete Wilson
and Gray Davis.
That's right, broad bipartisan support, including virtually all of the business community in California.
That opposed Prop 13 to begin with.
You know what? Maybe you'll let me finish my answer before you start attacking.
Well, you didn't answer the question about taxes to begin with, so I'm trying to elicit an answer from you. See, this is important. This is important because she signed the pledge against taxes, just like I did, and we had a bunch of Republicans violate that pledge. And so what I'm looking for is evidence. I'm looking for consistency. I've always voted against taxes. This is important, ladies and gentlemen, because our country is on a precipice. Do you want people to follow through on their promises, or do you want people who have a past record of coming out against Prop 13?
All right.
Okay,
Carly,
can I
let's answer, then we're going to move on to another round of this.
If I could finish the response. What Prop 26 did, if people will remember, is give voters the opportunity to declare that education is a priority. It was a very narrowly worded proposition that would allow less than two-thirds majority for the construction of schools. That is why it had broad bipartisan support. A similar measure passed 4 years later. I'm sure it's very frustrating for Chuck DeVore to have so many conservatives endorsing me. But I wonder why. But I wonder why. Maybe it makes him feel better. Maybe it makes Chuck DeVore, who's sort of dog paddling at 14% in the polls, maybe it makes him feel better to belittle other people's conservative credentials. The reality is...
All right, easy, everybody.
The reality is that Chuck DeVore was a supporter of the 2005 and 2008 budget. The reality is that 2 weeks before the 2009 budget passed, Chuck DeVore was on television saying that he would open the door to tax increases. Well, we can go on television. Look, here's the bottom line. We have a senator in Barbara Boxer who has never met a tax increase that she didn't love. We have a senator in Barbara Boxer who actually believes that the only jobs worth creating are those in the federal government. And we have an opportunity with serious problems in front of this state. As city of LA that's bankrupt, the state of California that's bankrupt, the nation that is hanging on the precipice, and 8 counties in California with unemployment above 20%. We have serious, big issues, and we have a real opportunity, once and for all, to replace Barbara Boxer with someone who knows how to create jobs, someone who knows how to cut spending, and someone who will not support a single tax increase, because we've demonstrated over and over and over again that when you send money to Sacramento, they spend it, and when you send money to Washington, D.C., they spend it.
We got a break. When we come back.
When you come back, you can pose a question to either Tom or Chuck, and then Tom, you could do it as well. We also want to shorten the answers a little bit for the final segment, unless you people want to stay over past 3 o'clock. That's always an option. Okay. When we come back, we'll continue with the debate between Chuck DeVore, Tom Campbell, Carly Fiorina, John and Ken Show from the Harris Hotel in Costa Mesa. KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk radio.